Welcome to the Intentional Man Podcast, a podcast that inspires and equips Christian men to live intentionally, pursue God-sized goals, and build lives of significance. I'm your host, Jonathan McGinley, a Maxwell certified life coach, speaker, and trainer, and the founder of Intentional Man. In this podcast, you will hear inspiring stories, learn helpful life practices, and gain valuable insights on how to grow into the man God has made you to be. Welcome and enjoy the show. Hey, it's Jonathan McGinley, a Maxwell certified life coach and trainer and the founder of Intentional Man. And today I'm going to be talking about something that has personally changed my life, probably more than almost anything else. And this is something that I love talking about. And I hope you leave today feeling encouraged. I hope you feel inspired to pursue everything that God has put on your heart to do. So let's jump into this. Today, I want to start by asking you some questions. And so when you think of your life 5 years from now, I want you to picture your life 5 years from now and think of these questions. Do you expect your life in 5 years to be better or worse? Do you believe in 5 years that you're going to have more money or less money than you do now? Do you expect your relationships to be better or to be worse? Do you expect your faith to be stronger or weaker? And do you expect to be further in your career or about the same as you are now? If you're like most people, your answers probably reflect that you expect the days ahead to get better. And so let me ask you one more question. Why is that? Why do you expect the days ahead to get better? I would answer all the same questions with optimism just like you. And most people, when I ask them these questions, they always assume that the future is going to get better. But is that based on a clear plan and strategy, or is it just based on some vague hope that your life's going to improve? And for many people, they just figure that tomorrow is going to be better, but they have no strategy for actually making it better. And actually, the stats show that the worse off that people are now, the more that they exaggerate what their future is going to be like. And this is like having like a lottery mindset where you just assume something great will happen to you in the future that's going to drastically change your life for the good, that some break is finally going to come. And once you have that, then your life is going to improve. And honestly, for a lot of my life, I lived this way. I've always been a pretty optimistic person. And so I just assumed that my life would get better and better as time went on. And after I graduated college, I started working in the digital marketing world, primarily as a project manager for website development jobs. And I went to school for marketing, so this seemed like a field that, made sense for me to go into. It wasn't a job that I loved, but it wasn't a job that I hated either. It paid the bills and was a solid career for the most part. But because it wasn't something that I was truly passionate about, or honestly, even that interested in, I never really focused that much on developing myself in the industry. And I just figured that if I showed up each day, that if I worked with a good attitude, that I'd automatically get promoted, that my income would increase, that I'd start to enjoy the job more. And I remember one company that I worked at, it was a couple years after college, and I was getting paid pretty little to work there. It was a company I really liked the culture, so I wanted to be there. And I took a job there just in hopes of working my way up and making it a long-term gig. But it was a customer support job. And the day-to-day tasks were pretty easy, honestly. And there wasn't really a whole lot of challenge to the job. And I got caught in this rhythm of just going through the motions. I would be punctual. I would work with a good attitude. I would take good care of the customers. But I wasn't doing anything extra to add new skills or to go the extra mile to bring value to the company. And the whole time I was there, I was just waiting to get the pay raise, waiting to get the promotion, but it never came. And when I first started, I figured I had a big vision. I would answer those questions optimistically. I figured that I'd just work my way up the company in a couple of years. I'd be making a good sustainable income, but it never happened. And if you would have asked me those same questions that I asked you at the beginning, I would have for sure answered positively for all of them. But that wasn't the case. And it was all just based on some hope that things would improve. But I didn't have any sort of strategy, system, or vision for how that would actually happen. Can you relate to that? Like when you think about your life, do you have a plan for improving yourself, for growing in your key skills, for growing in your character? Or are you just hoping that things will magically improve in the future without improving yourself? In 2020, I was introduced to John Maxwell's book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And the concepts in this book have changed my life forever. And it came at the perfect moment for me. And it finally gave me the concept that would ensure that I actually have a plan to make my life better in the future. And that concept, that idea, is personal growth. And John Maxwell, he's the author of over 100 books. He's considered to be the number one leadership expert in the world. He runs multiple successful businesses. He's one of the best communicators on the planet. And he said that there's not one thing that has changed his life more than committing to personal growth. And he has a quote. He says, "Growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow is going to get better." If you have a desire to reach your full potential, and I know you do because you're here and you're listening to this podcast, if you have a desire to reach your full potential, then how do you do it? And I believe that that answer is growth. If you have dreams, goals, aspirations, you're going to have to grow to achieve them. If you want deeper relationships in the future, you're going to need to grow. If you want to advance in your career, you're going to need to develop some key skills. If you want to influence others, you're going to need to grow in your leadership skills. Right now, there is a gap between where you are and where you want to go. You know, when you think 5 years into the future, all those things that you wanted to be, all the things that you want to do, there is a gap from where you are to where you want to go. And the bridge to that gap, I believe, is growth. James Allen, in his book, As a Man Thinketh, he says, people are anxious to improve their circumstances, but they're unwilling to improve themselves. And so they therefore remain bound. And that's good. People are anxious to improve their circumstances, but unwilling to improve themselves. If you're not doing anything to improve yourself, you cannot expect your circumstances to get better. If you're not willing to do the work it takes to grow, you're most likely going to remain in the same place. We can only go as far as we grow. There will always be a lid on the level of your success if you don't grow as an individual. And okay, so if we're going to grow, we have to get highly intentional about it. And in his book, The 15 Laws of Growth, this is the first law that he puts in there. And this is the law that changed my life, changed my perspective on everything. It's the law of intentionality. And that just means growth doesn't just happen. And he shares the story in this book of when he was young. He sat down and this guy was trying to sell him this personal growth kit. And he said, "John, do you have a plan for personal growth?" And he was like, "A plan for personal growth?" And he started telling him about his goals and his dreams and his aspirations. And then the guy looked back at him and said, "John, you don't have a plan for personal growth." And then from then, John went and started asking all his friends, "Hey, do you have a plan for personal growth? Do you have a plan for this?" And no one actually said that they had a plan for personal growth. And so when I heard this story, I had to ask myself the same question. Do I have a plan for personal growth? It's different than just growing. Do I have a plan for personal growth? And so I'll ask you that now. Do you have a plan for personal growth? If you're like me, if you're like John was, and if you're like most people, the answer is most likely no. But here's the thing. Growth is not automatic. It doesn't just happen. If you're going to grow, you're going to have to grow on purpose. So, and I think the problem is that as children, our learning was structured, right? At each grade level, we studied a curriculum that was set for us. We had to take tests and exams to make sure that we knew what we were studying. But once we finished our actual formal education, the test stopped. And so we no longer had reading assignments or homework problems. So instead of it being a part of just our daily natural routine, personal growth became our full responsibility. And the problem for many people is that they never take up the duty of actually developing themselves. Instead of working to get better, they just get by. But if you want to be the person you were created to be, then you must do more than just experience life and hope you'll pick up some lessons along the way. You must go out and seize opportunities to grow as if your future depended on it. And if you want to reach your full potential and become the man God has called you to be, you cannot coast through life hoping that you just pick up lessons as you go. You may pick up some, but you have to get intentional about growing. If you want to truly reach your full potential, you must be proactive. You must make a plan. Growth doesn't just happen. So we have to move from accidental growth to intentional growth. And when I was in that job, hoping that I would get a promotion, hoping I would get a raise, I was only growing by accident. Maybe I was picking up some lessons here and there. Maybe there was some failure that I learned from, but I was only committed to growing on accident and not growing intentionally. And so I want to kind of paint these two pictures for you. So here's some characteristics of people who are just growing accidentally. As I go through these, see if this is you in any one of these. People who are going accidentally, they just plan to start tomorrow. It's not the right time. I'll do it tomorrow. They wait for growth to come to them, for someone to come teach them, for someone else to take the initiative. They learn only from mistakes. That's the only way they learn, is from mistakes. They're planning on relying on just good luck. They want that big break. Playing it safe, not doing anything risky, just playing it safe. Talking big, but not actually taking action. And then this is a big one, I think, is thinking like a victim and making excuses, right? You blame the job. You blame the boss. You blame your relationships. You blame your circumstances. People who are in accidental growth, I think, rely only on talent. They just get by on their gifts and their abilities, but they don't actually grow. And then also, you stop learning after graduation. Once you graduate, that's when the learning's done. From then on out, there's no sort of structure, no sort of plan to actually grow. So can you identify with any of those? I know I can. I still fall victim into this often. If I get into this reaction mode, if I start just coasting, this is usually where I'll end up. But now let's listen to the opposite side of this. So these are the characteristics of people who are growing intentionally. Okay, so they insist on starting now. Insist on starting now. We're not waiting. They insist on starting now. Take responsibility on themselves to grow. It's my responsibility to grow. I have to have a plan for it. Learning before making mistakes. Actually taking the time to learn and develop and grow before mistakes happen. Taking risks. People who intentionally grow actually take risks, and they never stop learning. They rely on hard work, persevere, and most of all, they take ownership for their growth. They know exactly what they need to work on and how they can improve, and they take ownership for that. So do you see the difference? Which of these two do you identify with the most in your life right now? Are you coasting through life, hoping that it will get better? Or are you attacking life and growing in the areas you know you need to grow in? Are you making excuses, or are you taking ownership? Are you spending all your extra time on your phone or just watching TV, or are you reading books, spending time with mentors, asking good questions, listening to podcasts, taking courses that expand your knowledge? For almost all of my life, it had been the former. I used to be the guy, honestly, that would make fun of people who like to read. I'd be like, why are you reading? You can just watch a movie. Naive, stupid. And I just said it was a waste of time. But actually, I was wasting my time and my potential by not fully developing the gifts and abilities God has given me. And it was me who was actually playing victim to my circumstances, blaming the situation, blaming the job, blaming, the structure. That's the reason I wasn't getting the promotion. That's the reason I wasn't getting the raise. It's the company's fault. It's not my fault. I wasn't taking ownership for my growth. And the shift from accidental growth to intentional growth has honestly made the biggest change in my life. It's been an absolute game changer. And I believe that you were created to do something great. I believe God has made you with unlimited potential, and he's blessed you with so many different gifts and talents and abilities. And it's not being a good steward if we don't take those gifts and abilities and opportunities and intentionally develop them to our full ability. I want you to change your life. And I know to do that, you have to grow. If you want to change your life, you have to grow. You have to develop yourself. Don't wait for circumstances to get better. Get better yourself, right? Don't just hope that your future is going to improve. Improve yourself. Don't just hope that you're going to have a deep relationship with the Lord. Invest time to grow in your relationship with the Lord. We can't never hang out with him, never invest, never commit to time to growing and expect to have a thriving relationship with the Lord. Don't just hope that your life is going to magically improve. Learn, study, read, get coaching, get mentorship. Do things that will help you grow. And I promise you, as you commit to growing intentionally, you will notice a drastic positive difference in your life. So hopefully by now you see the need for committing to personal growth. So I want to make sure I leave you with some practical steps to actually begin doing this. So if you're going to pursue your full potential, you're going to have to develop your own curriculum. Like I mentioned earlier, once you're done with school, it's now fully on you to develop your own learning system. You need to develop a personal growth plan. So the first step to developing your personal growth plan is that you have to look into the future. And what I mean by that is you have to look out 5 to 10 years from now and get a vision for where you want to be. So think about your relationships. What do you want those to look like? What kind of dad do you want to be? What kind of husband do you want to be? What kind of friend do you want to be? Think about your career. In 5 to 10 years, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in the same job? Do you want to be in a different industry completely? Do you want that promotion? What do you want your finances to look like? So you can look into the future in multiple different areas. You could look in your health, your career, your relationships, your family, fun, different areas, and determine exactly what you want your life to look like. But without getting a vision first, then we're not going to know exactly what we need to work on. So that's step one. You got to look into the future, get a vision. Then step two, identify key skills. So once you got that vision, where you want to go and who you want to be, then you need to identify the skills that will be needed to get there. So for example, let's say you want to be an author. You need to obviously get good at writing. That's a key skill that you obviously need to get good at. But you also need to get good at editing. You need to get good at marketing so that you can get your book out to people. You need to be good at sales so that you can pitch your book to publishers, or if you're self-published, that you can sell it yourself. You got to get good at those skills. And here's something that we don't often think about too. You need to also identify character traits that you need to develop and fears that you need to overcome. A lot of times this is actually more important than some of those practical skills I just mentioned. So same example, if you're an author, you might need to overcome your fear of failure. You need to stop comparing yourself to other authors. You need to overcome procrastination, or you need to overcome the desire for everything to be perfect, or you need to overcome your lack of discipline and your lack of consistency. You see what I mean? Those things oftentimes are bigger barriers than some of the skills that we need to develop. So a good way to identify some of these key skills that you need is to look at someone who is doing what you want to be doing and ask yourself, what skills do they have that I don't? What skills do they have that make them so successful? What is their mindset like? What habits do they have in place? So for relationships, look at couples who have been happily married for a long time and ask them what's made them successful. Listen to them. Identify the key skills, the key things that they've done that have made them successful. For people who are in better shape than you, ask them what their health habits are. So that's a great way to identify some of these key skills. Ask people who are doing it. Look to the people who are in the spot you want to be and identify the skills, the character traits, the habits, the things that they have in place. So once you've identified these key skills, then it's just a matter of actually intentionally working on them. So step 3 would be to pick 1 to 2 of these skills and devote consistent time each day to develop them. So my recommendation would be to pick one of those practical skills, like I said, like writing, speaking, communication, finances, the things that are pretty obvious in your job, the things that you have to get better. So pick one of those to focus on, and then also pick one of those soft skills, like the fears you have to overcome, the mindset you need to develop, the disciplines that you need to develop. Pick one of those and focus on that. So then you got one hard skill, you got one soft skill. And then from there, you just develop your own curriculum. So you find books, you find podcasts, you find courses, mentors, coaches, anything else that will help you and commit consistent time to working on it. So I know some people don't like to read. Don't let that keep you from growing. Listen to audiobooks, listen to podcasts, get a mentor and have conversations. So a lot of times we think, I don't like reading. I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to get better. There's a lot of different avenues that you can take to grow. So once you've picked one of those skills, one of the hard skills, one of the soft skills, you consistently devote time each day to working on that and get focused. Get really focused. I think a lot of times our growth, when it's accidental, even if we are listening to good things, it's random. We listen to a podcast about money here and a podcast about marketing there and one about communication and one of relationships. That's great. You're growing. But also, if you can narrow that focus in and say, I'm going to focus on marketing for this 1 month and everything I listen to is going to be on this, you're going to develop that skill so much quicker. So once you've done that and you feel like you've got to a good place in that skill, then you just pick another one off the list, dedicate consistent time to learning that skill. So to recap these steps, you need to first look into the future and get a vision for the next 5 to 10 years. And then from there, identify the key skills needed to reach that vision. Then create your own curriculum and devote consistent time each day to learn. John Maxwell has committed to spending 1 hour each day in personal growth. And he says that it's so life-changing, that personal growth is so life-changing that it is worth spending that much time. And he recommends that everyone work their way to that 1 hour a day point. But for now, guys, it could be 15 minutes a day. Could be 10 minutes a day. Could be 30 minutes a day. Just get started, okay? The important thing is that you begin. Accidental growth people, like I mentioned earlier, would wait until circumstances were perfect to get started. You're probably already thinking right now in your head, I don't have time to do this. How am I going to fit another 30 minutes in? Just get started, okay? Intentional growth people are the ones who will get started right away with no excuses. You got this. You got this, I promise. And I believe in you, and I'm excited to see you grow into your full potential as you commit to intentionally growing. The time is now, okay? Don't wait. You can do this. It will change your life. You were made to do something great. You were made to with unlimited God-given potential. The sky is the limit for you if you commit to getting better and growing each and every day. So I believe in you. I know you can do this. Take some time to reflect, look into the future, identify those key skills, build your curriculum, then devote consistent time every day to learning them. You got this, all right? Now go build a life you're proud of by living intentionally. That's all I've got for this episode of the Intentional Man podcast. One thing that would really help both of us and new potential listeners is for you to share this show with others, post about it on social media, and leave a rating and review. Thanks for joining me today, and until next time, remember to build a life you're proud of by living intentionally.